Hello everyone, this is CK. I'm a practicing Scrum Master and an Agile coach. So in today's video, let's talk Scrum. So to give you a logical understanding, I consider four people are standing in front of me. The first person is a fresher or a college student. They heard about Agile and Scrum. They want to know what is exactly the Scrum. The second person is a senior developer or a tester who's already in a project, a partial Agile project. They want to clearly understand Scrum. The third person is the manager or some other team lead role, whatever may be the role in the organization. And their project is getting moved into an Agile. They're going to transform in Agile soon. So they wanted to clearly understand about Agile and Scrum so that they can learn and get new responsibility over the Scrum project, right? So the fourth person is a person who is trying to crack an interview. He is already a developer or tester. He's giving an interview, but he have worked in a partial Agile or not proper Agile project, and in the interviews they are asking about Agile and Scrum. So he wanted to learn what is Scrum exactly. I'm going to give explanations for all this four perspective people. I consider that they are in front of me. So you might be one of the person. So at the end of the video, everyone will get a clear idea of what is Scrum. We have multiple frameworks here. Consider Scrum now. Scrum is a framework which comes under the umbrella of Agile. Agile is a methodology and Scrum is a framework through which we practice a Agile project. So you should have an Agile mindset, but you can practice Scrum framework. So to give a real-time scenario, the Scrum is the framework which is more than 90% of the organizations are following now. So the fresher guy might ask me like, what is the definition of Scrum? Yeah, the definition of Scrum is like, Scrum is a lightweight framework which helps people, team or organization to solve a complex problem with adaptive solutions. So the basic thing you want to know is, you should always say Scrum as a framework, not as a methodology. Many will confuse what is methodology and framework. Framework is like we have a structure built upon, we follow that and we complete our work. Okay, so methodology is like all the informations, manifestos, principles, so how to work on it. So you should say Scrum as framework. Okay, you can add your own innovative ideas in the frameworks. It doesn't disturb your Scrum, but you should not remove any of the existing part of the framework, so it is not considered as a Scrum here. For that we have Agile manifestos and principles to have an Agile mindset, but in work we follow Scrum as a framework. Okay, so the basic thing of Scrum is built upon empiricism concept. What is empiricism? Okay, nothing but we learn through experience. Okay. So the pillars of empiricism is transparency, inspect and adapt. Nothing can be built in one day, like Rome can't be built in one day, right? So same way in Scrum we practice sprints. Okay, sprint. So every sprint gets started and it gets ended. So at the end of the sprint we get an output. Every sprint we experience, we learn something new, the team works, the team gives an output. At the end of the output we see, okay, the sprint is like should be like effectively should be like less than 30 days. That's what Scrum guide tells us. So every month it is getting released, right? So you learn and fifth sprint or sixth sprint you learn something new. So we should have a complete transparency here in the project, and through the transparency we get some findings can be followed for effective next following sprints. So we inspect and adapt. We adapt to the proper solutions. So transparency helps us to inspect what is going on, and with that inspect we find what can be improved for the effectiveness and we adapt that. That is transparency, inspect and adapt. So these are the pillars of Scrum. Okay, so now you understand what is empiricism. Now the next thing you want to know about Scrum is, what are the events practiced in Scrum? Okay, so there are 4 events in Scrum. The first event is sprint planning, the second one is daily Scrum, third is sprint review, and fourth is sprint retrospective. The day 1 of the sprint is sprint planning. So you plan what is going to happen in the sprint. I already told you that the sprint should be 30 days or lesser. We consider 30-day sprint. So we plan for the sprint. We have a plan what we have to work in this 30 days. So daily scrum is one more event. Every day it is of time box for 15 minutes. For the guy, interview guy, he might be interested in knowing what are the time boxes of every events in the scrum, what is the team, what is the timeline of the sprint. It's for you. So it is like 15 minutes daily scrum will be there. In the daily scrum only the developers will join and they will discuss what has to be done in the next day, upcoming day. So the first sprint is planned, the altogether 30 days, what we are going to work, what can be done. It is like just an estimation, it is not fixed. If we take 5 tasks for the sprint, it is not considered as you have to complete this mandatory, nothing like that. We as a developer, the team decides what can be done and they are going to that finish line to complete it. Okay. So sprint planning is done. The next thing is daily scrum. It runs daily. Okay. The third is sprint review. Okay, done. So now the sprint is started, daily scrum is done. At the end of the sprint, every team person is working. Some increment. Increment is nothing but a product, the end product. What can be done in the sprint, not the final end product. It is like a end of the sprint. What we plan for the sprint, the task is completed. Some product is finally, like we say that as increment. So the increment will be inspected or else it is displayed to the stakeholders. In the sprint review, the stakeholders might be there, product owner, scrum master and team will be there. So they see the outcome of the sprint, what they have done during the 30 days, right? And after the sprint review, next comes the sprint retrospective. That is nothing but the team meeting, no stakeholders or no one outside influencer coming in. The team talks about what went right, what went wrong, what can be improved. The 30 days experience is discussed in the sprint retrospective. In case the team finds some effective things which can be followed in the upcoming sprint, they take it as and they put it in the product backlog, where for next sprint they can use that learnings, which is like empirical pillars, empiricism concept we are talking about it, that comes in this picture. So finally the 30 days, the 4 events starts and gets completed, sprint is completed. There is no time gap between one and the second sprint. The second sprint immediately starts once the sprint retrospective event is completed. Okay. So the third thing I want to discuss with you is SCRUM Artifacts, the manager's perspective. He might be interested like how we document, how we start the projects, your answer. So in the Scrum we have artifacts, 3 artifacts we used to say. One is product backlog. The product backlog, all this project completion part, like starting, we say for example we are developing a rocket. Development of a rocket is a project. In the product backlog, the product is rocket. We have all the informations. That is like the product backlog can keep on changing, but as of the first sprint, the product backlog has all the informations, all the tasks. It can be considered as 1000 tasks is in the product backlog. Okay, it is a backlog, it is an artifact. Artifact is nothing but, if you go and Google it, artifacts is like a man-made document, created document. Like we are creating a document, consider artifact in that way. Okay. So we have a product backlog as a artifact. It has all the informations needed to develop a product. And the commitment to that, we have an artifact. What is a commitment? Everything should have a commitment, right? Only then it is considered a success or failure. Okay. So we have a product goal as a commitment for the product backlog artifact. So we have developed a product goal. It should be like a rocket should successfully launched. That is a goal, final goal. So for that we are developing a product backlog. So the goal, the commitment is the goal. So we are developing a product backlog artifact to achieve that goal. The second artifact in Scrum is sprint backlog. So the product backlog is there. So you know the Scrum is followed sprint wise, every sprint. For one sprint, this is the first sprint, we create a sprint backlog for that. which should be achieved at the end of the sprint. That's what the mindset of every developers or a team agile working in the sprint. Okay, so for that, the commitment, the end result should be the sprint goal. We focused and we progress towards the sprint goal. So third artifact is increment. Okay, increment is nothing but the product increment, the final product increment. For that, the commitment or a goal should be definition of done. So what is definition of done? Okay, we'll talk about it later, but just now, as of now, you consider definition of done is a guideline or a artifact which helps the team to achieve a increment based on certain criteria. So, like example, the coding part should be effective, there should not be any redundant code, it should pass through the multiple environments, test environments, the bug fix. So there are multiple criteria so that we consider the end output as effective. If the end output is having multiple bugs and as of one sprint we show output, at the next sprint the first output might distract the next sprint. So we should have an increment which is properly completed. So for that properly completed part, we should have a guidelines, right? That is definition of done. So it's clear now. So there are three artifacts which supports the Scrum or a product development part. So the final concept what we are going to discuss here is team. What is team in Scrum framework? The team is nothing but the team consists of a Scrum Master, a product owner and the developers. So developers means not only the coding persons here. The team, the definition of the team in Scrum is it is cross-functional and they should be effective enough to create an end output result. So in case if Rocket is a product, the team should have developers, scientists. So the scientist also comes in the developer part only, testers. So we should have an end result. For that, the team should not be dependent on any others. The team should be capable of creating their part. Okay, that is a team here. So what is the role of Scrum Master here? That's what I am doing here. So the role of Scrum Master is he should explain the team or make sure the team is following the proper agile way or they are properly following a Scrum framework, so that the effectiveness is getting increased. So make sure that facilitates all the events. If there is a impediments, Scrum Master pitch in and helps, but he is not a owner or he is not playing any lead role in the team. He just make sure that the process of Agile or Scrum framework, what has to be done is properly going in correct way. In the time box, say for example, I told you that daily Scrum is 15 minutes, sprint planning should be 8 hours for 1 month sprint or lesser in case, and sprint review should be of 4 hours or lesser, and sprint retrospective should be of 3 hours or lesser. He should follow the time box so that the time effectively done. Okay, so now you should get a clear idea. Let's quickly have a synopsis of what I have explained. Okay, Scrum is a framework, Agile is a methodology, Scrum comes under the Agile umbrella. So if Scrum is used in the product development of an organization, so what has to be followed is empiricism. Empirical pillars, transparency, inspect and adapt are the pillars of the Scrum. So we have different Scrum events. So the main thing, the backbone of the Scrum is the sprint. So the sprint is fully completed with these 4 events. So for supporting this, we have artifacts, which is product backlog, sprint backlog and the increment. The commitments are sprint goals, product goals and definition of done. So next thing is the Scrum team. Scrum team has Scrum Master, product owner and developers. So I must to say about product owner, right? The product owner is the person like who's responsible for the product backlog. He talks with stakeholders every time and understands, gather information. It's not like that developer should go and speak with stakeholders. It is considered as the sprint backlog is maintained by the product owner. So everything is ready. So now quickly let's start. Okay, giving a real. So all the four persons asking me what is Agile and Scrum, I hope everyone is like satisfied with my explanations. So quickly let's start. We are going to develop a rocket. So the scientist and the like government is ready funding the project, and finally there are 10 teams is designed. Every team is capable of developing their part. So the product owners gets information from the hierarchies or the funding people how the rocket should be there, and every team has a separate product backlogs, and the sprint one starts, everyone takes the task from the sprint and they start their work. The events are completed, they follow the empiricism concept, they are transparent in the first sprint, so the review is coming up. So all these 10 teams are developing something, so they are displaying it to the stakeholders. We see that bottom part of the rocket is developed fine, everything is fine, it is considered as an increment. The next sprint starts, they learn, they develop, and finally the end result rocket is done and it is launched successfully. This is how the Agile way the project is developed and completed. If you follow Scrum, these are the parts. So in the upcoming videos, we'll go deep inside every single part, and I'll explain the more detailed way so that you can clearly understand Scrum. And if you need any specific topic to be explained, make a video on that. Thank you so much everyone. Have a good day. Bye.